lot of times, again, as entrepreneurs, like our job is to fix problems. Our job is to create plans, execute plans, fix problems, see success from it, and repeat, right? And we tend to want to bring that into our relationships as well. When actually what's better for the relationship is that, in the example of, me and my husband being in Costa Rica, and I was trying to keep my same normal schedule, and he was feeling abandoned every morning like a single dad with the kids, then the better thing to do, instead of me trying to come up with a solution and execute it, is for us to have that conversation of, hey, let's put our expectations out there and understand, like, here's what I need, here's what you need. Now let's work together to compromise and meet in the middle. And it's the process of bringing your spouse into that, of hearing each other out, of understanding where the other person's coming from, and allowing each of you to be the support to the other in maybe new ways to help both of you get what you need, that actually not only helps the relationship, but it begins to help each of you realize this other person really is supportive of me. And maybe my worth and my value isn't just in my business going up and to the right. Maybe the worth of what I'm doing is here in the moments of being able to be present with my wife, with my husband, with my kids, right? Like, that's really where the joy is and where the gold is of everything I'm doing. And because I feel more supported here, and they understand what I need and I understand what they need, and we're helping each other to get those needs met, then I'll be able to produce better in the time that I do a lot to my business, because it's coming from a place of support and love, and not feeling like I'm having to produce in order to be supported and loved. That was a long answer with a lot of rambling, Cameron. So I hope any of that made sense.
Lean in to who you are.
Yeah.
Who you are and who you always felt like you've been is who you were meant to be. It doesn't matter if you were born in the wrong house or with the wrong family that doesn't understand you or the way that you are and your dreams, but keep chasing them, because they are possible, and you will end up on a stage. You might be 40 before you get there, but you were meant to impact people, Amy. You were meant to run your mouth and run your voice and help other people and give them permission to be themselves, whether they're fat, skinny, thin, tall, whatever they look like, and however they show up, they are worthy, they are able. And that's what I would say to me back then.
There's an unfair advantage to imperfect action. I'd say like speed. I grew up in California. We learned in 4th grade about the gold rush. It wasn't called the gold crawl. I see a lot of people miss out just because they take a lot of time to think about doing instead of just doing, and acknowledging that the first time you do it is going to be it's probably going to be the worst time you do it. And so I see that like with my kids as they develop, you just got to be bad fast. There's an unfair advantage to just being bad fast. And so I think I might tell them that, because it took me a while to get over that concept of being okay with being bad. And then the second thing I think is the most important decision you're going to make is your spouse. I'd probably say your significant other, like that. I've seen it, like it just is. And so, and if it went back to me, I'd be like, you're on the right path. You'll find someone that's great. But for anybody out there who's younger, I'd be like, man, I cannot stress that enough, that I've just seen folks and seen the unfair advantage that can be to have someone where you're aligned on the things that matter most. And they're either like they're in it with you, or they are championing you, and they're totally on the same page. And either work great. And so for me, that's like our dynamic is she's not entrepreneurial, but she fills me up in like the ways that matter most to me. Like the things that I'm going to be caring about when I'm 80 years old, she fits all of those things, and she celebrates the game that I'm playing, right? So you think of like, I've heard of that dynamic of like sports or athletics kind of a thing. It's like, they don't have to play the same sport as you, but if they enjoy it and will celebrate and champion, and they're telling you to go hard, push, fill that calling kind of a thing, then it'll still work out great.
I would say I am super determined, persistent. I do not give up. So if I didn't have determination, I would be done. And the other thing I would say contribute to success, it goes without saying, of course, to God be the glory. I couldn't do anything without him. But speaking in the natural, it would definitely be that determination and focus. And then the next thing, I think it would also be, I guess I would have to say faith. Even though I would have to say faith that even when I lose, I win, and faith that if something doesn't work out, that it's all going to work together for my good in the end. So just doing it anyway. I didn't want to quit my job. I didn't want to get pushed in the pool. You kept running by. I didn't want to do it. But once I got in and took that plunge in the deep end, I had no choice but to keep swimming. Sometimes I got tired and had to float. But if I didn't, I was going to sink and drown, and that just wasn't an option.
The runway, for me, the runway out in front of you is endless. That you can't even, I would tell myself that you can't even imagine how much time you have in front of you. So take some risk. Take it now. Take it at 18. I was well into my 20s with my first business, and I thought I knew everything. I didn't know hardly anything, but I was already a decade behind in just taking risk and living, because here I am, I'm about to be 46. I've already lived on this planet more than twice that amount of time as 18-year-old Joseph had. And everything seemed so big and so important right then. But I couldn't tell you about more than a handful of situations about my life when I was 18 at all. It's so long ago. So yeah, the time horizon is a lot longer than I would give myself credit, or that they say that young people, they feel like they're gonna live forever. That's a yes and no, because it's also like everything's important right in the moment, and it's not the case.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I agree wholeheartedly. And at the risk of it sounding just very cliche, communication is important. I wouldn't go as far as to say that communication is the key to a great relationship. I believe it's a very important part of it. But more specifically, what I mean when I say that is communication about our expectations, communication about our core needs, communications about what we intend to happen or what we hope will happen, right? Not just the communication of the facts, but also the communication of the feelings, and allowing your spouse to be able to do the same back to you. That's where communication begins to really give the foundation needed to understand each other so that you can connect and a lot of other things that happen from there. But when I try and solve a problem, like if my in the example I gave, my husband says like, "Hey, I want you to be here when we wake up so that we can spend time together." I could try and solve that problem a million different ways, but he might actually none of those ways might actually meet the need he has. And unless I'm really understanding, why is that important to you? What is it you're trying to get from that? And we can connect there. I might do a bunch of things that end up making it worse, thinking that I'm solving it, and then just feel more frustrated because we're never connected on the core issue.
My brain never shuts off. I do. I remember when we were younger, like 20 years ago, Karan would ask me a question about something important, and I would say, "I don't know. I need to go to sleep and think about that." And in the first few times I said it, I saw his face look confused, but he didn't say anything. He didn't know me well enough to say what. And I knew that it was something that kind of threw him off when I said it. So I got a kick out of telling him that. As years went by, and I would say it periodically, one day he finally would say to me, "How are you saying you're thinking if you're sleeping? I don't understand this." And so then that's when I, began to tell him, I do my best thinking when I'm asleep. For me, my brain doesn't shut off. If I have a pressing thing that's weighing on my mind, I am just not going to be able to do anything or anything else until I have a chance to at least write it down, send myself a voice memo or something. Because as entrepreneurs and as the visionary, when you have these ideas, they can slip away because they come so quickly, right? So if you get a good one and you want to hold on to it, you kind of gotta let the other person know, like, yes, I understand. just give me a second. I need to do this thing. And then, write your note, send your voice memo, do whatever you got to do. Because if you don't, you're going to lose whatever that thing is.
And I have chatted with a few friends who were considering going to college, and it's like, well, before you decide, again, I'm not against college. I'm against college if like you're going to college just to say, hey, I have a degree. Like then I'm against it, because I think you could have a better experience and gain more life lessons by maybe shadowing somebody, right? Like maybe you go be an apprentice with somebody and like learn the business, right? Or learn what it is they really do, right? Like I was pre-med before I transitioned into, my bachelor's degree in science. I was pre-med. So I was going to go to medical school. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. And like, that was my route. Right. And I went and shadowed a doctor and chatted with him. And he was like, just so you know, if you get into this field, you're going to deal with this, this, and this, which is a lot of legal issues. You're going to be sued numerous times. You have to handle all this. And it's like, I want to help people. And he's like, I get that, but just be aware of like what comes with that. Right. And I was like, yeah. And after listening to him and like going through that, it's like, yeah, I don't want to deal with that if like that's not going to let me do this, right? And so like I transitioned, and it's like didn't go to med school, right? I took all the classes, chem, biochem, physiology, like all the classes. I was one class away from like qualifying to take the MCAT, and I was like, nope, that's not going to be for me, right? And it's like, so I went a different direction.
Evoke emotions within other people that they enjoy feeling. And this isn't based on my intention, but on their perception. So if I said that to my husband, of course, like, figure it out, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, is that evoking an emotion within him that he enjoys feeling? No. Right. Like you're not, he would probably feel unheard, disrespected, unliked, unloved, several different things. But I could say, well, hey, like I didn't intend for you to feel that way, but it doesn't matter what my intention was. It matters what his perception was. And until I take that seriously and actually begin to change my behavior based on how he feels, not how I intended him to feel, but on how he feels, we're going to keep going in that downward spiral and evoking negative emotions within each other. So evoking emotions within the other person that they don't enjoy feeling, which in Marriage Helper we call a push behavior, because it's something that pushes the other person away. Whereas these emotions that evoke positive, or these behaviors that evoke positive emotions, are these pull behaviors. When we do them, it pulls the other person towards us because they want to be around us.
Right now, one of my big wins, so besides just looking for help, is knowing where you're going. And my big win in life is if I can raise well-adjusted, kind human beings who want to spend time with me when they no longer have to, that's a win. And my wife and I share that. Yeah, like that. And I say that probably at least once a day, that I want to raise well-adjusted, kind human beings who want to spend time with me when they no longer have to. That's it. I'm super, I hope it's not, it's not a bad goal. So when I feel anxiety in that, like the weight of the business or feeling those things, what motivates me to humility is a clear understanding of what I'm trying to do. I believe that if I'm anxious and stressed and manifesting that around my kids, that I'm not going to be like someone they want to hang out with. And I'm not saying like, it's not bad. I'm not trying to like hide this feeling of anxiety, but so like, honestly, that motivates it though, because I've felt in spaces when you're also driven to succeed, you can just carry it, right? You can just be like, you know what, there's anxiety. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to like wear that. I don't need to ask for help. I'm going to do this thing, because if I'm motivated by just like, I just got to be strong enough, I can do that. The story in my mind is I want my kids to want to spend time with me. They don't necessarily care how much, 1,000% they do not care how much money's in the bank account. They don't care at all. They don't care how big the team is. They don't care about any of that whatsoever. They do care if I have the mental space to be present with them. If when I walk into the room, I can engage with them and have fun with them, if I can be present and listen and hear about their life, those are the things that they care about. And because I've got a clear vision of where I'm heading, I like I said from the start, I'm like, I'll get over myself, and it's a humbling thing to go to your wife and be like, can you pray for, like, I'm not holding it all together. Like, I'm feeling it right now, but I'm not trying to front anything for her. I'm not trying to like be all the things to her. We are on the same page about our big win in life. And she knows that we're not going to be able to do it alone. And so that comes from, like I said, tapping into higher power and doing it together.
The first thing that really, and this is a learning process. By like no means have we figured it out. This is just what is currently working for us, because I'll tell you kind of where we started and what we tried that didn't work for us. Again, not saying that it doesn't work for others, because it clearly does. But in the beginning, we tried to keep our businesses and our life separate, meaning that, okay, we would set very strict hours on working, which I do think is very important. And we do that in a way still. But then it was, okay, now this is very strictly family time. And, this is what we go do with the kids. Right. And we always and maybe my wife and I are weird this way, but always at the end of like the day or during dinner, like business conversations would just like naturally come up, and it's just like a never ending thing. And we took a lot of stress of like, why can't we just not talk about business? And it's like, that's our life. Like, that's what we do, right? Like our business is our life. So we quit trying to separate them, and we really combine them, right? And we take our kids on our business trips. We will go to meetings. We'll meet with clients in person if you're here locally. Half the time our kids are there and they're sitting at the table, and it's like, this is what we do. This is how we are. And our kids are just a part of that, right? And we try to include them as much as possible to say, this is life. Like, this is how we operate as a family. Again, I'm not saying this is going to work for everybody, because I know it won't. Just as like trying to separate them didn't work for us, but I do know it works for others very well. And in doing that, we found that we're not as stressed. And my kids now know it's like, hey, I have to go do a Zoom call, right? Like right now, my kids have walked in a couple times, and I just like point, and they're like, got it, Dad's on a call, right? But there's times they'll walk in and I'm still on a call, and like, depending on what it is, it's like, okay, you can come walk around because it's okay. And it's like when we go to TCS, like, of course we're going to bring the boys. Like, Costa Rica, great food. It's an amazing environment for kids to be in. Like, why would I not bring them, right? And it's like, and even my son came and listened to 2 speakers, because one was, now I'm going to forget his name, Peterson, the football player. It's like, my kid is into football right now, so I'm like, got to come listen to this NFL player speak. And he's like, I'm there, right? And so like we're trying to include it and make it be one, and say, this is our life, not trying to separate them. And that's just what's worked for us. Again, not saying it's going to work for everyone, but in trying to still move along of, hey, this is family time. I do have a pretty hard stop at the end of the day, around 6, again, give or take about a half hour. That at 6, it's like, okay, I disconnect. I walk out of the office, and it's like, hey boys, what are you doing? Let's go play catch. Let's work on, baseball drills or football drills. Like, we make time to do things with the boys. Even, later on after they go to bed, I may come back and like answer some more emails, or like, depending on the project, may have to finish some things up, right? But it's never a like try to keep them separate. And we always are pretty intentional in trying to do something with the boys at least once a week that's outside of the house, right? Like, we're going to go to like the Nickelcade, right? And like just spend time. Or, last week, we went camping for a week and a half, and, we had mobile internet. So it's like, I could get on for a couple hours every day and work. But then it was like after 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's like, okay, work's done. Like, we're going to go, we toured Yellowstone. We went up to Montana. We went to like a ghost city, like a haunted, city that was close to there, and like walked around the buildings. And it's like, yeah, the kids see me working, and yeah, I can work mobilely, but we're still making it very intentional to like go do things that have nothing to do with work, that we can spend time as a family. And same with like us as a relationship as a husband and wife. We're not great at this. Yeah, it's like we're not great at this, and we're still working on trying to do this. We promised ourselves we're going to do this once a week to like go on a date. We're like once every 3 weeks right now, so we're trying to like improve that. But again, like it's just a continual thing of like we're trying to just get better, right? And so, we're trying to put the kids in their activities first, and my wife and I having our dates. Again, trying to improve. We're not perfect. Trying to get up to once a week, but we'll get there. So just being intentional, and I think trying not to exclude them and keep them separate, but just combine them has worked very, very well for us.